And now, your host, Peter Lamont.
Welcome to episode 47. Thank you all for joining me. Today's show is sponsored by Poke & Pole, the world's leading luxury kitchen brand. To find a design studio near you, visit Poke & Pole online at www.pokeandpole.com. Well, today we welcome back Laurie Cheek of Cheeked. Laurie was on the program last month and talked about her experience on Shark Tank, overcoming adversity, and what motivated her to leave her successful career as an architect and start and build Cheeked. So we welcome back Laurie. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Laurie, I told you before the show started, but I just want to tell our listeners that after your show aired, over 10,000 people downloaded the episode either from www.understandingthelawradio.com or through iTunes. And we received over 75 questions that our listeners wanted you to answer. So it was a very successful show. A lot of people are really interested in what you have to say. And what we've done today is we've pulled the top 12 questions that sort of are a recurring theme that were asked throughout the other questions. So by answering these 12, or as many as we can get through in a half an hour, I think you're going to be answering the majority of the 75. So that's really great.
Perfect.
All right. So let's just get right into it since we have you here for about 30 minutes. So this is from Jessie from Pennsylvania. And she says, I think it's a she says, the business world still seems to be male-dominated and makes me feel a little nervous about starting my own business. How do you deal with that? So first of all, Laurie, do you think it's still a male-dominated business world?
Absolutely. The interesting thing is, even as an architect, when I entered my 5-year degree in architecture school, my class had 64 people in it, and 4 of them were women and 60 were men. And so I feel like I kind of already had a training to, kind of penetrate this male-dominated industry in technology and business. So I've just tried to make a positive twist on it in that being a woman, I often make a joke that you don't have to wait in the bathroom lines, and you kind of stand out because there's rarely many women, especially in the world of technology, which I've learned. But I think also the small community of women kind of band together in a stronger way than if there were tons of women in the community. And I feel like if you just find the right support group, it can be very helpful. So I think it can almost be advantageous that we're a minority in the industry. And I wouldn't look at that as something to hinder you going into business at all, because I look at it as a plus.
So her comment about feeling nervous, your advice to her is just push through it because it's okay?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. All right, good. Okay, this is Mark from Santa Fe. Have you had success with Cheeked with the gay community? I think it's an awesome idea, and I can't wait to try it.
It's so funny. This morning I just sent somebody our gay card that we had made for Gay Pride, and, that's the thing about homosexuality. It's kind of intimidating to walk up to someone that you don't know if they're also gay, but we created a card that says, I am, are you? And I feel like it's a very subtle way of letting that person know if you are, then I am too, and it's very vague, so they don't have to get offended by it. And even on the other side, for the promotion of Gay Pride, we had the apostrophe and the rainbow colors. And we did a daily deal kind of thing with a gay site in Washington, D.C. I can't remember the name of the company at the moment, but it was very successful. We got tons of orders, and that's the other nice thing about these. The cards are non-gender specific, and you can even customize them to say whatever you want. So we've definitely targeted the gay community as well.
Yeah, so Mark seems excited about it, and I encourage him to pick up a deck because, I think you're right. I think that it work well for the gay community. So I think that's exciting. All right, we've got Jennifer from Buffalo, and here's what she says. She says, Laurie, you're an inspiration for girl power. How do I get the courage to start my baking business? So I guess she wants to be a baker. What do you have to say to her?
I just think if you believe in anything and you believe in it the way that I believed in it, I mean, mine was kind of an accident. I didn't have this vision. It just kind of appeared in front of me, but I believed in it so much that I surrendered everything. I mean, I've thrown everything away to build this business when I think I've mentioned before, most people would have quit a long time ago. I just think if you power forward and, every kind of hurdle just makes you stronger. And even to this day, 4 years in, sometimes I'm hitting these barriers. And when I thought there were no more mistakes I could make, I still hit them. And I know from what I've been through that I can get over them and keep going. And I'm just stronger. And I feel like nothing can really break me down at this moment. And the decision to do my own thing has been the most powerful thing I've ever done in my life. It's just been so rewarding, and I feel like if you're passionate about your idea, I'd say go for it all the way and make sure you surround yourself with a supportive network of people because you'll need them.
All right, well, that's actually a great answer because it leads us into the next question, believe it or not. This is Carrie from Kansas City. She says, I started a photography business last year. I quit my job to do it, and in a year, I've only made a quarter of my salary that I used to make at my old job. What should I do? Do I quit my photography business?
I mean, that really hits home because I've done some crazy things to keep my business going, and I haven't taken a salary in the past 4 years. I'm still not taking a salary. So even when I was on the Shark Tank, I think Kevin O'Leary looked at me and said, how are you living in New York City? But I am an architect. I've been very creative about how to keep funding my business and how to live without any money. And, I mean, I used to work at Christian Dior, so I'd dress like $1 million. But meanwhile, people don't know what I'm actually doing in the real world to keep this vision of mine alive. But, I've done I rented out my apartment on Airbnb, and I hopped around on my friend's sofas for over a year, and I made profit from that I put right back into the business. I've done focus groups. I've done secret shopping. I mean, I've entered a lot of contests. I enter sweepstakes all the time, and my friends make a joke that I've got lucky stars all over me because I'm always winning things. And let's say if I won a router at South by Southwest last year, and I sold it on Amazon.com. I mean, I'm just very crafty about it. So I don't think you have to quit your dream. You can just look for odds and ends kind of jobs to keep it alive and just keep focused in the midst of it. I mean, it's like juggling, but starting a business isn't easy, and it's just one of the obstacles you have to face to get successful one day, and I'm still on that vision myself.
I guess the key is that you've got to have that passion, because if you don't have the passion, then you don't have the desire to do what you've done to keep the dream alive. So I think that, for someone like Carrie, if she has that passion and really believes in her business, then you do what it takes and you don't give up. But if you are someone who just doesn't believe in yourself or doesn't believe in your own vision, then you probably should reconsider. But I think your advice to Carrie is spot on.
Yeah, I mean, I look at my business as almost a child. So I have this 4-year-old, and I mean, what would you do to keep your child alive? You'd make the sacrifices. And I think that building a business is just pretty much a parallel to making the sacrifices you would for someone that you love.
I got to tell you, I didn't go over the questions with you before the show, but somehow you're managing to transition to the questions perfectly. Because here's the next one from Mike from Park Ridge. My wife is against me starting a landscaping business. She says it's too risky. I know I can make it work, but I don't want to end up divorced over it. What do I do?
Wow. That's a sensitive subject. I think that it is risky, so I wouldn't disagree with that in the least. But, I think if you're involved with a partner, you've got to get them on your side before you start making risks. I mean, it's like gambling, and if your other half isn't a fan of it, strong probability that you might lose your other half in the midst of it. But I'd say to make some projections and show your partner how serious you are about it and how it could actually change your lives for the better. But I think you have to keep level-headed about it, that, what I've been through, I'm sure if I'd started this when I was with someone, they would have thought I was crazy and said not do it. But now where I am, I think people believe in me, but it does take a while to get from nothing to ramping up. So I just say try to get her on your side before you move forward.
I think that it's really important that he understand that, it is important to get someone that it's not like it's someone you just started dating and they're married. So you have to kind of take that risk together. It's very difficult to go all in if you don't have your significant other supporting you. But something you said is a really good suggestion, which is get all your facts together, get all your data, and then sit down with your spouse and say, listen, I know this is risky, but here's how I'm going to do it, here's what I plan on doing, and here's what I project we can make. You might have a better chance of swaying her.
Exactly.
Okay, this is a good one. This is Lara from Texas. I'm a kitchen designer, and I went out on my own 2 years ago. I started out being nice and sweet, but realized that the only way to get respect from my clients and vendors was to be a bitch. Do you agree?
I don't know about that so much. I mean, I think running a business you can easily get taken advantage of. So you've got to have your wits about you. But I think there's a nice way to kind of be a bitch. And you just have to let your vendors know that you're on your toes and that you're not about to get taken advantage of. I mean, trust me, I feel like $50,000 I've invested in my business has gone into a paper shredder because I may not have been as aggressive as I should have been, but I think there's a pleasant way to be aggressive and, not make enemies, because even my technology teams in the past, it's almost like they're the surgeon. So it's you don't want to be mean to the surgeon because they can really wreck things for you. So I think there's a nice way to go about being.
I think what you said, I think assertive is the way you want to go. I think that you can be strong, you can stand your ground, you can be assertive, but you don't have to be nasty, because that's only going to drive customers and vendors away. But, I think that being a bitch and frightening people, having people fear you, is not as good as having people respect you.
Exactly.
And I think that respect comes from being assertive and confident, not from being nasty.
Yes, like you want them to want to succeed with you and for you.
Yeah, so Lara, ramp it down a notch. Okay, we've got Kenny from Glens Falls, New York. How do you hire good employees? I follow the rules, interview, review resumes, background checks, etc., but always end up with losers that quit or I have to fire. What am I doing wrong?
I mean, just like my business, it's all about the real-world interaction. And, often when I get a resume, I'll scan over it to make sure the person's been around the block or back. And but I don't really pay much attention to what's in writing. I'm always about the real-life connection, and I make sure that I meet the person, and I judge them based on their energy and how we communicate together. And, I think it goes miles, this in-person interaction, so I don't know if he's had an issue with people that he's hired over the phone or based on phone interviews or paying attention to resumes. But I think you've got to trust your gut, just like getting into any kind of relationship, and watch out for some flags early on. And, everything that happens in an interview, it's like that first impression. So I think you've got to pay close attention to everything that's happening from the minute you meet the person.
Yeah, I agree with you, because in our business, we see a lot of people, a lot of attorneys that come in, and they might look great on paper, but, when you sit down with them, you have a gut feeling. And I always tell people that are asking me, go with your gut, because it really does, I think, it's the best judge, because people can look great on paper, and people can even do a really great job at an interview, but if you're not feeling it, if there's something that's not clicking with you, then don't be swayed just because on paper they look great.
Yeah, I mean, I'd hired the only person I've ever hired that I had an issue with, he came from the Netherlands to do an internship, and I hired him over the phone. And, I mean, he could have been 19 years old and came and worked for me, and he started telling me how I needed to run my business, and it was like, who's the boss here? Anyway, it didn't work out, and I felt horribly because he'd come from the Netherlands, but I tried to get him another job somewhere else and see if that person liked being bossed around.
Okay. All right. This one is Stacy from Nevada. I run a designer cookie business. I started it last year, and I'm still working out of my house, so I don't have a storefront. Is it okay to make myself look bigger on the internet than what I really am? What do you think about that?
I mean, I'm a huge fan of fake it till you make it. I say, blast it out on social media. I mean, I've been known to do some campaigns that make cheeks look bigger than we really are. Like I've had a graphic designer do skywriting for us. Like we have a jet that's written, "You've been cheeked in the sky" kind of things. And we've made fake billboards on graphic design. But, yeah, I mean, I think the one advantage of that is not having a storefront. You've got less overhead, so you're making more profits from your business, and you may find that that's how you want to do that. And I mean, finding other retailers to sell your product is a great way to do it as well. And I think in the meantime, building your community on social media could help you when you ultimately do get a storefront. So I say stick in there and just make it as big as you can while you don't have that.
I think the only caveat I'd add to that is that you need to have the product or the skill to back it up. So I completely agree with you, fake it till you make it, but make sure that you have a product that can back up the claims. Because then you're going to get yourself in trouble. Right.
Right.
All right. Martin from Tampa. How do I use Facebook to get customers? I post stuff and I get nowhere. No one comments or nothing. Is social media BS? That's a common question that's a common theme. People don't understand how people like yourself utilize social media and actually get business out of it because it blows people's minds for some reason.
Well, I think your presence on social media can't just be about, oh, hey, buy my cookies. Like if you have a cookie company or a lipstick company or whatever it is, it's got to become almost like a person. So the character you build behind your brand, I mean, with Cheeked, it's been very easy. We've got a flavor, we've got a character, we've got a brand, and we try to drive that through, and it's 4 years of personality, and we don't sway from that one bit. So, I mean, even if you've got like a bicycle tire business, there's got to be something kind of flavorful or unique about the content that you're posting on social media. And, even Pinterest has been an amazing tool to drive traffic to our site. And, people love images, and just starting to create a flavor or a personality behind imagery for your business has, it's been very fruitful for Cheeked. And I would suggest, just trying to keep building users and maybe even hiring some young interns to help you out on social media that are good at it. I think kids these days know a lot more about it than the older community. So I'm a fan of it all.
No, I think that's very good advice. I think that if you don't know how to do it, bring somebody in and let them show you how to do it, because social media is not an overnight thing. It takes time. It's just like a relationship that you have in the real world. You need to take the time to nurture the relationship that you have with the people online. And it's not an overnight success.
Right, and I think you even have to follow other people, follow similar brands and see what they're doing to successfully convert users as well. So you have to pay attention to the competition. And I mean, like, I look at my favorite brands. Like, I love American Express, Nike, Apple, and I look what they're doing, and I follow them as they're almost like mentors in the world of social media to me.
Yeah, don't recreate the wheel. Look look at people and try to model what they're doing. Pick and choose what works for you. That's great advice, Laurie. All right, this is Jessa, and Jessa's from New Jersey. How do you deal with the ups and downs of business? Some days I'm super high, and other days it seems like I totally suck at what I do.
I mean, I feel like, I say it all the time, building a business is not easy. It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life, and there seem to have been more downhill drags than uphill drags for me, but when it starts finally going uphill, it's more rewarding than anything. And you've just got to take it as it comes. And still, if you believe in it, you've got to understand that there are going to be bad days, tough times. I mean, it's just like any kind of relationship or going through life, period. There's all kinds of bad things that are going on out there, but you just have to have the power to overcome and keep positive about it and use every bad thing as a positive learning experience. Yeah,
I agree with you. I think looking at it in a positive spin, looking at it as a challenge or a learning experience will help you get over that hurdle. All right, we've got two more, so I want to try to get through them before you have to run. This is Dennis. We don't know where Dennis is from. He has a limited advertising budget, like around $700 per month, he says. My friends tell me to do television commercials, which are a little more than my budget, but I could swing it. But the shows or the commercials won't be on until after midnight, a few nights per week. What do I do? So I guess he's got a limited advertising budget. His friends are telling him, buy TV advertising, but the television stations are telling him that because I guess it's a low budget, you'll be on after midnight. And he wants to know what you think he should do.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the wisest way to spend that kind of budget. And, 4 years into my business, I haven't spent a dime on advertising. And just like I mentioned before, I think the power of social media is free advertising. And I haven't even paid for Facebook ads yet, but I do think they're well worth your money, or Google AdWords, even just trying to get press around it. I've made this business international without a single dollar spent on advertising. So there are many other ways to go about it, and maybe don't even spend that budget and put it into something else. But I would highly recommend Facebook ads beyond after-hours television ad, because I don't know if that's the target market for what he's doing. But right. I think it can be more wisely spent on the Internet.
You should consider writing a book, because getting national attention, the way that you've built the business, the way that you search your name on the Internet and there's pages and pages of you and you haven't spent any money on advertising. I could just see the title of that book, How to Become Well Known Without Spending a Dime. So think about that, Laurie.
Right. You're not the first person to say that. I just
no, really.
Clone.
I could see it. All right, here's the last question. This is from Llewellyn. We don't know where Llewellyn is from. I had a cleaning business for 5 years. It was so stressful and the worst. Now I work for a company and just get my paycheck. Why do you even bother to start a business? That's a common question, too. What do you think about that?
Well, I used to make about $120,000 a year. So I had a good life. I was taking myself out to dinner. I'd get invited to weddings all over the world, and I'd book my trips, and I didn't have to depend on a man. I made a living for myself, and I had a great life. And then I came up with this idea, and crazily I thought I was going to be a billionaire in a matter of minutes, and it's definitely not how it's worked. I mentioned earlier that I haven't taken a salary in 4 years, but there's something that's recreated a reality for me, and, the lack of money, and I just think it's humbled me in so many different ways. I feel like I'm such a stronger person that I've been able to fight through this. And again, it was an accident, but still somehow this is the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I'm very passionate about what I'm doing. I had a cool career before as an architect, but now I'm doing something that involves bringing human beings together, and I just believe in this vision of mine so strongly, and hopefully it's going to change other people's lives as well. So that's why I've built my business, and I just think you have to, again, believe in it as much as as much as you can to even want to succeed.
Yeah, and not everybody is suited for running their own business, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I think it's just part of a person's makeup that they either, are entrepreneurial or they're not. And if you're not, then embrace what you're good at, but I think you definitely have to be the right kind of person to endure the stresses, failures, and whatnot of being an entrepreneur.
Definitely not for everyone.
All right, well, Laurie, I know you have to run. I know you have a busy schedule today. I want to thank you so much for coming back on and answering these questions. I know the people that ask them will be thrilled, and I'm sure that we're going to have a tremendous response like we did last time. Before we do go, I want to ask you what's new, what's going on with Cheeked, and then obviously let people know where they can follow you and get the Cheeked cards. So what's new? What's going on? What do we have to look forward to?
So, there's all kinds of neat technologies coming out on mobile, and it seems to be the path that all these dating sites are taking. So we have an app in the Android and Apple Store right now, so you can download the app, and you can buy your cards, your physical cards at cheeked.com, that's CHEEKD.com, and you can activate those on your app, and you can even search for other users nearby on your app now. But we just want to ramp up our app a little bit so it becomes kind of the Porsche of dating apps. So we've hired, in my mind, who are the hottest app developers in America. They're fueled out of New York City, and you walk in their office, and it looks like you've walked into Ralph Lauren, and it's like 8 of the hippest-looking guys I've ever seen in my life. And I think if they put their hip magic onto our app, we're going to have something pretty cool in a matter of 8 to 10 weeks. So keep an eye out for us. But in the meantime, you can just go ahead and get your physical cards and spot intriguing strangers and hand out your card, and hopefully you'll have a love connection.
Well, that's great. Laurie, where can people follow you? Obviously, cheeked.com. How can they get in touch with you if they have questions?
So if you want to email me personally, you can reach out at Laurie, Lori, @cheeked.com. You can follow us on Twitter @Cheeked and Facebook @Cheeked, and I'm just Laurie.Cheek on Facebook and Laurie Cheek NYC on Twitter. And I'd be happy to follow up with anyone if you have any further questions or if you just want to get cheeked.
All right, and if your question wasn't asked or answered on today's show, please feel free to contact Laurie directly. Laurie, thank you so much. I wish you the best success. Keep in touch, check in, let us know so we can update our listeners as to what's going on with Cheeked.
I absolutely will. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, so that was great. We had, I think, some very good answers from Laurie. What I'd like to do is I would just like to go through some of the questions again. I didn't want to interrupt and interject too much, but I just want to just give some additional information, at least my perspective on some of the questions. And I have to say that I think Laurie was spot on. She hit all of the points that I would make, but I just want to put my personal spin on some of them. So let's just go through it quickly. What I want to talk about basically is the questions concerning failure and how you overcome it, because that's a recurring theme through all the questions that we received. And it's also a recurring theme that we receive from listeners and viewers of the video program, which is on our YouTube channel. How do you deal with failure? Because it's out there. Well, I just want to talk about that for a short period of time. I think it really depends on what you as an individual choose to focus on. Because if you choose to focus on the negative elements of what happens to you, then you can very easily fall into the trap of, I've got bad luck, everything bad happens to me, this is terrible, my business isn't a success, I'm terrible, I'm not good at what I do. All of these negative emotions and feelings, and it has a direct impact on you, on your business. And I'm not a psychologist, but I've been in this field long enough to see how successful companies, whether you're a startup or you're coming back from adversity and you're building your business back up, how The people that are successful look at problems, if you want to call them problems. I know there are some people that we work with that refuse to even say the word problem. They just refer to it as a challenge. Nothing's a problem. It's always a challenge. How do we overcome this challenge? And for some people that works. For other people, they like to use the word problem. I'm not so much of a believer in changing the word to make it more positive, but what I am a believer in is changing your attitude. If you have a problem, call it whatever you want, but it's some hurdle, it's something in your way, and you have to find a way around it. It's as if you were taking a drive out west, for example, and you're on Route 80 going out west, and there's a giant tree that's blocking the road. So you have two options. You either sit there and say, man, this sucks, I can't get the tree out of my way and I'm not going to make it to my destination, or you find an alternate route. And that really is something that is, a trait that people have. You can develop that trait. You can develop a way of getting around problems and finding solutions. So it really is up to you to make the conscious decision that, hey, listen, I know that there will be adversity. There is adversity in everyday life. Every single day, something negative happens to you. Whether you lock your keys in the car, you get splashed by a bus as they're driving down the street and on a rainy day, you have a problem at work, you don't respond to an email, whatever it might be, there's always adversity. Now, obviously, there's some levels of adversity which are worse, but it really depends on how you put your focus on that problem or challenge. If you focus on the negative aspects of it, if you focus on, I can't move forward because here's the tree, then you sort of shut down and your brain doesn't look at, well, okay, yes, this is blocking my way. What's the solution? What do I do? That's when you become creative. So shift your focus. Don't focus on the negative. Acknowledge the fact that there is some impediment, something blocking your way of moving forward, and open your mind up and say, okay, it's there. I know it's there. How can we fix it? There are people that you can study. There are entrepreneurs and successful business owners, that when you look at their stories, you wonder, how the heck did you become successful? Look at all the problems you had or have. How did you do it? And I think the recurring theme, the thing that you're going to learn about these successful people, are that they embraced whatever the negative was and looked past it, used it as a springboard to get around it, to figure out what they could do to make things better and to make it work. And this ties into something else that Laurie was talking about when she was answering questions about, I met with adversity, I feel like I'm no good, I don't know if I should close my business, and then the other questions concerning, I'm not making any profit, maybe I should close my business. Laurie talked about her passion for Cheeked. And I think that passion is so severely underrated when you're looking at the entrepreneurial spirit. I think that really the heart of the entrepreneurial spirit, which is a term of art that's used in literature, on TV, I really think that the heart of it is passion. Because if you believe in what you're doing, then it doesn't make a difference if 100 people or 100 million people tell you you're wrong. You will move forward. So I want to talk about that passion for a minute. Being passionate about something will help you, I think, get over the hurdle of negativity. I'm so passionate about what I do, what my business is, and I know, because I don't stick my head in the sand, I know that there will be problems, adversities, challenges, whatever you call them, but I believe so strongly in what I'm doing that I will overcome them. It's the attitude that a lot of world-class athletes have. It's the attitude that people who are injured have. I've seen stories where you have an individual who was paralyzed as the result of a car accident or operations in the military overseas. They get injured and they come back, and you can see the difference between the people that sit in their wheelchair and wither away and those people who say, I will walk again. And whether they do or don't, they've got that warrior spirit, that fighting spirit that keeps them, moving forward. It's that passion to want to succeed at what you're doing. So I think that a critical element to being an entrepreneur, to owning a business, is having the passion. Because you're going to have adversity every single day. And if you don't have that passion, then you're not going to be able to focus on the positive elements of what you're doing. All you're going to be able to see is the negative. And then these problems that are in your way will become insurmountable and you will never push past them. And that's something that it's a skill that can be learned, but passion's not something that can be learned. Passion's not something that can be created. You are either passionate about what you're doing or you're not. And I don't think that it's necessarily a personal trait. I don't think that necessarily passion is a trait that you either have or don't have. I think that everyone has passion. It's a matter of finding what you're passionate in. And for those of you out there that say, I don't have a passion, I just, I want to go to work every day, get my paycheck, come home. You have a passion. There's something that you love to do. It doesn't necessarily mean that you should go out and start a business built around it, but don't think that you don't have passion. You could be passionate about food. You could be passionate about collecting toys or baseball cards, passionate about dancing and singing. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be on Dancing with the Stars or recording with Mariah Carey, but it's your passion. So I don't think that passion is something that people are either born with or not. I think that warrior spirit, that element of being able to deal with negativity, is something that can be learned as well. But I do think that being passionate about the thing that you love and dealing with adversity work hand in hand with one another. They both help you to overcome problems. One element that I think is something that's more of an innate quality is the ability to take risks. Laurie talked about the fact that she left a very lucrative job as an architect and has not taken a salary for 4 years, and she explained how she's making money to fund the business. And some of you might think to yourselves, oh my God, that's crazy. Why would anyone do that? But it's because she's got a passion. She believes so strongly in her business that she's willing to do whatever it takes. If you don't have that ability to handle the possibility of failure, because I am also a believer that failure does exist. It's what you do with that failure. Maybe you have a product that fails. Do you quit? I say no. You have to figure out why it failed, fix it, so that you can come back with a better product or a service or whatever it might be. But I'm not going to say that there's no such thing as failure, because yes, things don't work. You have to be flexible enough to shift your focus and to see what's working and what's not working, and then move forward into a direction that gets you where you want to be. But that element of risk-taking and dealing with fear in general, I think is something that's more innate. If you are not a risk taker by nature, the likelihood that you are going to be successful as an entrepreneur is relatively low, because that fear of taking risks, fear of the unknown, is something that's going to be such a huge hurdle that no matter how passionate you are, and no matter how well you've learned to deal with problems and adversity, you're always going to be shackled by the fear of taking a risk well, I could do this, but this is what's going to happen, or this could happen. And when you are thinking along those lines, you're never going to succeed. And there are a lot of people out there that don't want to take risks. And there are a lot of people that I have counseled and coached and worked with who had these great plans of starting a business or entering into a partnership with somebody. And when you sit down and you listen to the way that they are approaching the idea of starting a business, there's no excitement, there's no passion, there's fear. Well, I want to do this, but I don't know. And there's a difference. There's a distinction between being nervous and being fearful about starting something new, but having such strong passion and belief that regardless of what you're feeling, fear-wise, you still want to push forward with it because, the passion, the drive outweighs the fear. But individuals that I've dealt with in the past who, you sit down with them, you spend a lot of time with them, and then you realize, hey, wait a minute, you haven't said, I'm excited about this. You haven't said, this is going to be great. You haven't said, I know that I'm afraid, but it's going to be worth it. Instead, the comments have been, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know that I'm able to take risks. I'm not a good decision maker. This sounds good. I'd really like it because I think I can make some money, but I don't know. What if I do this and I fail miserably? Everyone's going to say I'm a loser. I should probably, I don't know, maybe I've got to think about this more. That's the kind of stuff that I hear. And I say to these people, look, you've brought me in to help you develop your business, and you've asked for my honesty and my experience, and I'm going to tell you that I don't think you're there yet. The opportunity might be there. The desire might be there, but it's not strong enough. It's not strong enough to overcome your fear of risk-taking, and there are some people who, no matter how much time has passed, they just don't have that innate quality. And it is okay. Those of you out there that don't like to take risks, that don't want to chance something like Laurie did with a $125,000 a year job into building a business from the ground up, not taking a salary for 4 years, it's okay. You don't have to feel badly about yourself. Being a business owner, being an entrepreneur is not easy, and it's not for everyone. Some people are quite content going to work, doing the best they can, collecting their paycheck, and spending time at home with their family. That's totally okay. So don't let anybody tell you that what you're doing is not good or that an entrepreneur is better than you. It's not true. It's just your personality. And the key to success when determining whether or not you should go out and venture off on your own, you have to look within yourself and say, is this for me? Honesty with yourself is critical. Be honest with yourself. Because if you're not honest with yourself, you will fail and you will lose money. So I think that that's a very important lesson to learn from this. And now I want to talk about another answer that Laurie gave, and it's the question that we had about the kitchen designer, who claims that she's more successful by being a bitch versus being, I think she said, nice and sweet. Well, let's just call it what it is. If you're a bitch, as you put it, you will not sustain growth. You will not have a successful business as the years go on, because whether it's in the legal industry or anywhere else, if you're dealing with somebody who is so abusive and nasty and unfriendly and unhelpful and just difficult to deal with, you might deal with them once or twice, but at some point, you're always going to be looking for somebody else to replace them, and you'll find them. There are a lot of lawyers that we've heard from our clients who they've worked with in the past. And this one story in particular was a gentleman who had come into our office to meet with our bankruptcy department, and he had a prior bankruptcy attorney. And the attorney had worked with him for about 3 months, and did not do anything for him and took a lot of money from him. And, the client went to him because he had a reputation of being a very successful bankruptcy attorney. But when the client got there, and this is not to knock the attorney because I'm sure he is quite successful, the guy was so nasty to him, so dismissive, he collected his money and sent him on his way, and then would never take his phone calls. But at this point, he's, trapped. He paid this attorney. He hired him because of his reputation, and now he finds out that the guy is not providing the level of support that he or any other reasonable person, for that matter, needs. And so ultimately he broke away and he came to our office and he sat down with us and he said, this guy was such a jerk. So even that strong reputation that that lawyer had about being a very successful bankruptcy attorney does not overrule, I think, the impact of his nasty attitude. So, that question is interesting because I've heard that a lot. I've heard it so many times, especially from women who, do feel that they're in a male-dominated business world, especially in various industries. For example, obviously, secretarial worlds and things like that. You might say, oh, well, the majority of the people that work in that field are women. But what about being a contractor? I've worked with women who own their own contracting business, and they're always looked at like, are you kidding me? You're a woman and you're a contractor, so what? That's what I say, so what? But these people are assertive, not nasty. Nasty means no business. Assertive is what you want to be. Don't be bullied. Don't be dismissed. But don't be nasty about it. Deal with it in a professional manner. Let people know that, hey, look, I've got the qualifications, I've got the skill. And if you don't like my gender, well, then hire somebody else. But you don't have to be abusive. And the only reason that I'm even saying abusive is because the question mentions being a bitch. And so in my mind, when I think of that word, I think of somebody who is not assertive, but is just nasty. So I strongly suggest that you reevaluate how you are treating your clients and your vendors, because at some point you won't have clients and you won't have vendors. All right, I just want to give you my input on the how do you hire good employees. Carefully, that's how. And you're not always going to strike gold. And it's not always going to be your fault, because sometimes you just don't know how good or bad a person is until you work with them. There's no way, right? And we do a lot of human resources training. I'm a certified human resources manager, and we have a lot of the human resource elements of our practice that we share with our clients. We run human resources departments for a number of companies, and so we deal with or educate our clients on hiring and firing and how to interview and background checks and that sort of thing. And sometimes you can do everything right. Like the gentleman that asked the question, I do everything right, but I don't get quality employees. Sometimes it's just the way it is, because on paper, the resume looks great. It's everything that you wanted. You do a background check, and they check out. They're exactly the right fit. You interview them, and you love them. You hire them. They're here a month, and all of a sudden, you realize that this person is not what you thought. And I'll tell you, this happens all the time, and it's okay. And it's not something that you should beat yourself up over, because sometimes people are good at manipulating, at acting, at convincing other people that they're right for the job. So don't be mad at yourself. When you're when you should be mad at yourself? When you don't do your due diligence when you hire an applicant. You don't interview them in person. You don't really look at their resume. You don't do a background check. You don't get enough interaction with that person to make a determination. That's when you should be mad at yourself, right? Oh, if somebody called in and they want a job, okay, hire them. That's stupid. I hate to say that, but it is. You have to do some work on an applicant before you can decide whether or not they're right for you. But if everything else checks out and you get, the wool pulled over your eyes by somebody who's not what they said they are, don't beat yourself up. Don't be mad at yourself. But you know what you need to do? Deal with it. Deal with that situation immediately. When you learn someone is not the right fit, personality-wise, skill-wise, don't let them hang on. Let them go. Be honest with them. Tell them, I'm letting you go because you can't do the job. It's just not working out. Our personalities clash. Any of these things. Because the longer you hold on to that person, the worse it's going to be for you. And I remember years ago, when I first started my career, I was on Wall Street. And it was a very large international firm that I was with. And we had, 75 or 80 secretaries in the New York office. And you would have these hiring committees that would make a determination whether or not you as a secretary was going to be hired. So it wasn't just up to the individual attorney who was going to be working with the individual. It was a multi-step hiring process. It took like a month to make a decision whether or not to hire somebody. Some might say it was overkill, but even when you've got that sort of process in place, you still come up with people who have fooled you. I remember in particular a woman who claimed that she could type, it was some astronomical amount of words per minute, because back when I started my career, there was primarily dictation being done by attorneys. There were not a lot of attorneys who were typing. I mean, I remember some secretaries that were still using typewriters. So the idea of dictation was really important, because you dictate onto a micro cassette, and then the secretary would have to pop that cassette in and then type what you had dictated. So that was a critical component of what secretaries did on that Wall Street firm. And I remember in particular, this woman was great, because after she had met the first 2 levels of screening, she was presented to the entire litigation department, and we all were, there. We met with her as a team, and then we had to kind of rate what we thought about her. And I remember after the woman left, everyone said, oh, she'll be great. She's going to fit in perfectly. So this woman comes in, starts, and I swear, it was like she had never seen a typewriter in her life. It took her so long to type it, anything. And it became readily apparent that, hey, you fooled us all. And I remember when she was fired, the management committee saying, okay, from now on, we're going to have everyone take a typing test. And sometimes that's okay, but sometimes that's not the greatest thing to do either. I mean, how much time can you possibly spend with a potential candidate? You can't spend 3 months trying to figure out if they're right. Sometimes you just have to, roll the dice, make the call. But my point is, don't beat yourself up if you get hoodwinked. Just take action and get rid of the issue. Resolve it. Tell the person that, you're sorry, it doesn't work out, and move on. When you're stupid is when you continue to employ that person, because it's only going to get worse for you. So that is my 2 cents. I think that Laurie did a very good job of answering the other questions. Remember, if you do have additional questions, or if your question was not answered or asked on air today, you can contact Laurie directly. She gave you her contact information earlier in the show. We'll post it on our YouTube channel when the video of this broadcast comes up, down in the description section, so that you can contact Laurie from there. Before we go today, I want to remind everybody that if you go to our website, which is www.understandingthelawradio.com, which will be undergoing a massive overhaul in the next few weeks, there is a link on the upper right-hand side of the page to download our app from iTunes. And it's an app that works with iPhones and iPads. I can't, tell you enough about this app, and obviously it's our app, so I am proud of it. But it really does have a benefit to people out there. How many times have you wanted to ask a lawyer a legal question, but you don't want to come in for a consultation, you don't want to call a lawyer on the phone because most of them are nasty or won't answer you, and you don't want to pay somebody to answer your question because it's just a simple question or something that you just need to know, to have answered. And what do? You end up looking on Google, you end up finding 100 different answers. Some are by paralegals, some are by lawyers, some are not by anybody of any knowledge of the law. So this app, its purpose is to solve that problem, while it also gives you the ability to view our videos and our informational and instructional videos, as well as episodes of Understanding the Law. The primary function of the app is to allow you to ask legal questions through your phone, through your iPad, and have them answered by an attorney, either myself or another attorney in our office. And every question will be answered. And it is not the kind of thing where you're going to get an answer that says, please call our office. You need to hire an attorney. Now, that's not what we're about. That's not what this is for. We give you a comprehensive answer to your questions. Sure, there might be times where after we give you the answer, we say it's recommended that you hire an attorney, but we're not soliciting you. We're not saying hire us. If you want to, that's great, but that's not the service that we're providing here with the app. Download the app, ask your questions, and you will get answers. You will get answers from attorneys, not from paralegals, not from secretaries, not from anyone other than a licensed attorney. So I encourage you to do that. You can search it in the iTunes store and the App Store. Just search our firm name, Law Offices of Peter J. Lamont or Peter Lamont, and you'll come up with the app. It's a free app, and I think that you'll benefit from it. So I would like to thank everyone for tuning in today. I'd like to thank again our sponsor, Pogenpol. Again, you can visit them online at www.pogenpol. That's POGGENPOHL.com. We will be on next Thursday, and look for exciting format changes coming in the next few weeks. We're going to try to do something a little bit different with Understanding the Law Radio. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You'll get video of the shows after they air. And obviously visit us online at understandingthelawradio.com. Subscribe to our feed and call in and ask questions, and we can talk about these things on air. So I'd like to thank you again. Remember that there's power in understanding the law.